Welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm your host today. My name is Michael McKeever. Now today we're going to be talking about the challenges of starting up and running a brand new theater company in any region. I'm joined today by our usual panel of theater experts. First up is my good friend Mr. Bill Hirschman, a very well-respected theater critic and founder of FloridaTheaterOnStage.com. Up next, the ever-wonderful Iris Acker, an actress and producer of Spotlight on the Arts. And last but certainly not least, one of the most respected actors in this region, the very beautiful and talented Miss Karen Stevens. Our special guests today are two gentlemen who are dear friends and really great guys. They are the co-founders and co-artistic directors for the Slow Burn Theater Company in West Boca Raton, Mr. Matthew Korinko and Mr. Patrick Fitzwater. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right then, let's get right into it. Now, a few years ago, you moved down to South Florida and started up Slow Burn Theater Company. What the heck were you thinking?
That's actually one of the first questions we were asked. If by Bill, I believe, was
so.
one of our very first interviews. And our answer was, you can ask us at any time. You could have asked us 10 years ago, why start a theater company? And you can come up with a laundry list of reasons why not to. At the time, you could have come up with an even longer list as to why not to. Today, you could come up with a laundry list of why not to. It just got to the point where why not? It's something that we feel is a need down here, somebody who does these kind of lesser run, more intense shows with some regularity. I mean,
Well, let's talk about that. You do a really fascinating venue, a really fascinating slate of plays that most theaters don't or are a little too timid to tackle. Everything from Sweeney Todd to Urinetown to Bat Boy. Especially in those early years when you first started, you had to be faced with some really monster challenges. What were some of those challenges, and how did you get around those?
I think one of the main challenges that we had right off the bat was, because we were not established down here, is finding the talent. I think everybody went into the first show. You know, there were a few brave souls that were out there that showed up to the audition. Now it's become much easier because it's always like, let me send you in first. You let me know how the experience was, and then I'll audition. So I think that had to be one of the biggest challenges. Is really being two guys from St. Louis that didn't know a single soul down here. And just jumping right into the water was the biggest thing. I think the biggest thing was the unknown.
That's interesting. Getting talent. What about getting the audience?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with zero marketing dollars. I think what may have helped us is the fact that we were doing the unknown stuff. And there was no point in coming into a saturated market and trying to do Guys and Dolls or or something like that, because there are plenty of companies down there who do it and do great at it.
well.
So there was no point in doing anything like that. So you do this off the wall kind of thing that nobody might have ever seen. And so there's a curiosity factor. They're like,
I love that.
I wonder what Bat Boy's like. I've heard the cast album or whatever, but I've never seen it on stage. And so we had that kind of appeal. And then then we don't have to worry about, in the future, doing a show that we worry about our audience reacting oddly to. It's not like forcing Bat Boy on an audience that's used to Guys and Dolls.
Right.
Is there any particular reason you chose South Florida?
South Florida, actually, it came down in our private lives, actually. So in our real lives, in our real jobs, in the bread and butter job, is that we got relocated down here. And Matt had been doing theater a lot in St. Louis and was working with a great company there. And when we got down here, just looking at the market of it, that's when we decided, why don't we take a midlife crisis kind of risk and
Midlife crisis.
He's disowning that. He was like, "Listen,
I'm gonna go ahead.
Patrick,
Speak for yourself."
Director, choreographer, and you're still, overwhelming. I'm thinking of Sideshow, which was my favorite to date. I mean, you did a fabulous job on it. And you still have a business? Did I hear that? You're still working?
Yes, yeah.
How do you manage all this at night? I mean, tell us exactly what do you do? The actors, too.
Well, with the great thing that works about us, I think how we're really funding it and keeping it going is, by keeping in touch with our real day jobs. I mean, Matthew's really, he goes around and does voiceovers and whatnot, but in my real life, I'm actually an international hair colorist that travels the world. And so I travel out of town all week, fly back, and do the shows on the weekend, and rehearse every minute that I'm home. But I'll fly, as soon as we open our next show, I'll be on a plane to New York Monday through Friday, and then be back in time for curtain on Friday. Wow. Just because this company is something that we have to do.
I like that.
It's not anything, the sacrifices are huge, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
But it's interesting when she was talking about finding an audience. You started from nothing.
Yeah, 10 people in the audience. Yeah.
And yet, quickly you built an audience, and what I find interesting about your audience is it isn't a uniform group. You have middle-aged, you have older people, you have an amazing ability to attract younger people. I've said this before, when I review one of your shows, my internet hits go through the roof. Because, and I think it's because of your zero marketing dollars, what you do online. Can you talk a little about what you do to reach a young audience and bring them and get them to come back over and over?
Yeah, I think that the trick to reaching a young audience is the fact that our new younger generations of theater goers are not pre-planners. They're very much now. What do I want to do right now? I'm not going to think about what I'm going to do next Friday. So I think by having a huge presence on, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and just posting a picture of making a prop or something gets you such interest in this younger market, and that's what they want. They want what can I do right now? So I think being on that Facebook and just being present at all times, that's like having a third job, though, to be honest with you, is coming home from rehearsal at midnight and being like, and saying, I need to post something.
Huge. You're going from a non-union company, cast of thousands need be, when it's non-union you can afford to do that, into an equity blockbuster. The musical. It's not, I don't know, it's certainly not Bat Boy. How can you afford that?
To be honest with you, it's the audience. It's the loyalty from the audience. It's playing it smart. It's sometimes as a director and producer, I do have to take my own ego aside and realize that you can't have the whole world. You need to, I think one of our big successes with that is it forces me and Matthew and my cast to be creative, because we are strapped. We don't have all the big dollars. So the good thing is when you're starving a little bit, you find that you become much more creative. It's not just handed to you and you're like, here's $1 million, produce a show.
Yeah.
Instead, you get $1,000.
A specific example of how you've done that. I mean, you have given your budget amazing production values, particularly in set design and lighting and
Wonderful,
and
yes.
large casts with very talented people. What are some examples of how you have done that? You've made a great deal with a very little amount of raw material.
I would say the biggest place where we have that is where we find ourselves surrounded by similar people who have to do this, who aren't doing it for the paycheck, because it's not terribly big right now. It keeps getting bigger, and that's what we promise, is that whatever money we make is going to come back around to our actors, and it's finally getting to the point where where we're competitive. But to this point, people have done it because they believe in it, because they believe in the art, the show, the company, if you will.
Believe in us.
And it's incredibly humbling. And it's also very encouraging to know that there are that many people out there.
No one has done it better than you two when it comes to working with a limited budget and really creating top level entertainment. Say I've got a brand new theater company. I'm a kid out of school and I want to start a theater company. I want to use you guys as my role models. What advice would you give to a brand new theater company that's just starting out, whether they want to do straight plays, whether they want to do musicals? What would be the advice that you would give them?
It's funny that you bring that up, Michael. We just got a letter the other day from a kid that was wanting to start a theater company. He's like, come to all your shows. And he's like, I want to use you guys as the model. We actually have another guy up in, way far up in West Palm Beach.
Yeah,
Stuart, yeah, that he's got a company going. So he's like, what advice can you give us? And I think when you go into something like this, I think everybody's first gut reaction is go big or go home. And I think it's
I would imagine most of those people go home.
yeah, exactly. So I think it's more like, play it safe, not in your material, not in your casting, but don't forget that I think in this society that we live in theater is everything's so overblown on Broadway right now.
Yeah.
Like, loved it, love Matilda, love all those shows, but they're all just a big special effects show. What about the art again? That you should be able to go into a black box with a chair and deliver a powerful piece of theater and not need LED screens and turntables. And so I would say get back and make sure that the art is pure first, and then grow from there. And I feel like that's what we're doing now, is we're starting to get the perks that will just support the art. It shouldn't be that all the special effects is the art. It should just support the art.
That's great. That's
Is that
great
why you
advice.
call yourself Slow Burn?
Yes, actually. Good job.
I asked you after a performance, I said, Carbonell eligible? And for the two people out there who don't know what Carbonell is, it's the Tony Awards of South Florida, and you said it was the rent. Is that, it's has a little thing like, now you are Carbonell eligible.
Yes.
So obviously, Aventura, let's talk about where you are with your shows now, in addition to your first home.
When we first came out, we tried to do a full slate, 3 weekends, 4 shows a week, and we just realized that wow, we overdid it.
Yeah, that's one
We
of those
overdid
go-bigs.
it. It spreads the audience thin. Let's do 6. It means we're not Carbonell eligible, but it is what it is. When we start selling those 6 out, then we'll go to 8. When we start selling 8, then we'll go to 10, and then to 12, and things like that. But every now and then, a great opportunity comes out with an Aventura saying, "We'd love to have you here for a week. Let's do 4 shows here." It was pretty much the time where we were going from 6 to 8. Add that 4, and all of a sudden you're Carbonell eligible on,
right.
On Aventura's
Matt,
dime for those 4 shows.
how that came about is that Aventura came up to us and saw a few of our productions, and they're like, it's such a risky market right now with the tours that are coming, the road shows. So they're like, we're making a huge risk and an investment on bringing in a road show. Why not take our risk on you?
Wonderful.
So, and do it homegrown. So that really, that really appealed to us. So they're like, let us, let's. And really, all they're taking care of is the extra part of the run that makes us the Carbonell eligible.
12 shows.
Yeah.
12 shows makes you Carbonell eligible.
Correct.
Yep.
Over
And
3 weeks.
So your basic home is at, what is the name of the?
West Boca Performing Arts Theater.
West Boca Performing Arts Theater. And now Aventura as an addition. That's wonderful,
Yes.
because the Aventura Theater is quite beautiful as well.
It's
Beautiful.
gorgeous, yes.
Word of mouth. I think that's what's built your audience.
I do too.
Absolutely.
I'm there in the house and I'm listening to the audience around me saying, I wasn't going to come, but so-and-so said I mustn't miss this.
Yep.
That's wonderful, isn't it?
It is. It's great. I mean, word of mouth is in Boca is really. I mean, it's really incredible.
Yeah, but also keep in mind, you guys have a product that warrants that word of mouth. I mean, word of mouth can work both ways.
Exactly.
Yeah.
True.
Well, you
That
know
is
what
the
you were
truth.
saying about the people willing to work just to work. Community theater is like that. But I mean, community theater is way down and you're way up here. Well, I can't understand why, if they have actors who do not get salaried at all but have the passion and they work during the day, the product, I mean, Patrick, is it you, your direction, your choreography?
But of course.
Matthew, is,
Not that Iris means to put you on the spot or anything there.
Right.
That's me.
it's quite outstanding.
I think, I think I do have a good understanding of musical theater, but I think what I'm not afraid of is and I need to tell myself that almost every time we mount a show, is don't remount a show just to remount a show. And try to take your own spin on it and try to treat it like it's fresh and try not to do the Broadway one. And I think that's what gets people is that, there's a lot of reward in risk. I think, without risk, there is no reward. So as a director and as a company, you have to take a risk and not put up the same thing over and over again. Or you can put up an avant-garde show, but if you remount it the same way it was always done, you'll lose your audience again. Like, we have people that always come back to see what is the twist that we're going to put on it. What is what kind of ending are we going to come up with?
Right, or they will have seen it Oh, I saw Urinetown, but I didn't really like it. But I like what you guys did with it.
Yeah.
I like.
Here's a question: talking about those risks, is there anything, or are there any number of things that you took a risk with, that you did with a show, or a moment in a show, or shows that you regret and said, "Oh, that didn't work as well as I'd hoped," and that you learn from and you move on, or have you had any of those?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's several that you can think of when you really look back on it and be like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But it's so much easier to say that to be like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But I mean, I think a lot of things come together. It's all growing pains. And you know, Matt and I say that every night when we go home and kind of debrief each other. We're like, well, that hurt a little bit. Yeah. But you know, you grow from it. And
There you go.
what we learned in that first year alone, the growing pains were so severe.
For example,
Oh goodness!
Well, Bat Boy, just how over budget we
Over
went,
budget.
and we're like, wow,
Oh.
it really costs all that, and I mean, just when you
And
got
it
the
wasn't-
tab at the end of the day,
And it wasn't one of our best sets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We put all the money into it, and you know, even Ian at the time would have said, you know, we gave him all this money and we gave all the time in the world, and then you go and you look at the product, and you're like, yeah, it's all right. And then we give him a quarter of the money for Assassins and get one of the most beautiful sets that we've ever had because he had to be creative. He had to look at something and create something. That's what I mean about sometimes when you give too much, the creativity is lost.
royalties.
Royalties are
Big money?
royalties.
Yeah, royalties are
absolutely.
ridiculous.
Especially Rocky Horror was
Rocky
That
Horror
really
when we did that.
astronomical.
They are actually known as the highest royalties that there are for musical theater.
Wow.
Interesting.
It was great, though.
Tens of thousands of
Well, and
dollars.
everybody keeps asking us every October, so
Yeah.
you're going to bring it back this
Yeah,
year?
it was great. Yeah, he's
Someday.
like,
Someday.
It was cute.
Matthew, you
Twice is
performed
enough.
not only at Slow Burn, but in other theaters as well. So an actor is an actor is an actor. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I you know, it's what I grew up doing. That was my major in college, and it's nice to be at a point where, I mean, you know, the first year or two, it's, you know, it's slow burn 24/7, 365. It is what, and now, since we've gotten help on that administrative and the business side of it, I'm able to work with some other companies and do readings and do shows at other places, which is great because you get to know the people that are involved there, and then it becomes a little bit more of the community. Where if we need a chaise lounge for Sweeney Todd, Stage
call
Door
somebody.
can say, "Hey, let us lend you ours," and
Jump in there, Bill.
you know, in the same way.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not shy. It's hard to shut me up. One of the things that fascinates me about your talent pool, your cast pool, is that you have located this interesting group of people, which people come and go and it evolves. But I'm wondering how you found this cadre of people who were not getting leads and weren't even getting hired by anybody in the upper echelons of the large budget producing organizations down here. And we're much better than should be seen, I apologize to Alvin Enton, but to community theater. They were in a different strata, and yet you somehow found these people, or they found you. I'm thinking of people like Lindsay Forgey and several other, there must
Renata
be
and all of those
Renata
that
Eastlick
were
has
all
now gone
finds
to
for
New
us.
York. And you still got several that are staying with you show after show after show.
Like Cartland.
Rick Pena.
Yep.
et
Look how
cetera.
we can come up with.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
But
great.
these people weren't getting hired elsewhere except maybe in a fourth rung position. But they found you or you found them. How did that come about?
I mean, I think that's going to get a pretty blunt answer, to be honest with you, because they were always here, they were always out there. I think that it goes with risk again. It's looking at people and being like, you can do this. You know, it takes, you know, it might take a little bit more work. You know, we were talking about Ann in the green room earlier. Right. You know, Ann Chamberlain, who works with us, she's in several of our shows. I pulled her aside and taught her how to tap dance. Somebody else might not have took that time and been like, we can get someone from New York that can tap dance and we don't have to worry about that. But once again, where's the reward in that? Yeah. I think it's always there. We always have a find each show. It's actually what we pride ourselves in now is giving these opportunities and watching somebody like Renata being in New York and being like, you can do this. You've got this. I'm here for you.
Yep.
Well, it seems to be not only the model for your how you pick shows, but also for how you cast the shows. And obviously, it's a great model because you've been so successful with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd say, they found us.
They found us, and they've been there. It's just you got to take the risk.
So now that you're moving in or adding on a performance space, what's the next step? Or what's your goal, your next goal for?
I would love to have our own theater.
I have our
one
own
day.
theater.
Oh boy.
You know, it's when we first started off, I would say, since this program's about, what are the challenges of a small theater company? Finding a space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get flack right and left about being in a high school, but they were really, I have to be honest with you, the only ones that would take a chance on us. Everywhere else was booked, wasn't interested, saying that, oh, you can't do Assassins on a Sunday in Boca, you'll never make it. And we were like, okay, well then, I guess we can't be here then, because that's what we're going to choose to do.
Yeah.
So that school said, yeah, bring it on. It will help you as much as we can.
When you first got here, did you start looking for a venue or for a space that you could renovate and make your own, or was it anything?
It was anything. It could have been
A barn.
a barn. We could have got way Mickey and Judy on it, but there was nothing. I mean, we searched and searched and searched. This was actually the last place that we had called,
Wow.
and he just happened to be in the office. He's like, I'm never in my office either. And he answered the phone, and he's like, we just had a theater company leave here. He's like, this is what we do. We can handle you.
Wow.
Yep.
And
And he knew this show's on our list.
it was excited. And he's our
Yeah.
lighting designer now. I mean, well, he has been since the day
Yep.
one.
Wow, that's great.
And so yeah, I mean, main goal, we need our own spot. We need to grow a little bit more. We need to be able to do more shows. We'd like to do educational work.
Yeah, I'd love to do workshops and things like
Yeah.
that for the kid, because we'll judge some of the troop festivals and things like that. We've been invited to do that, and there's such good young talent here that you want to, brace
Coach
for the
and-
real world. And you wish you could say, "Come here, here's my notes," but this is what they mean, and this is, and you want to do that kind of thing, and you can't in the setting that you're, in a rental.
Sure.
And if we would ever have the opportunity to be in a space like that,
Well, the
that
sky's the limit
would
then,
be
sure.
yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Well, you've done so much in a space, as you said, as a rental. I can imagine what you all would be able to do in your own space.
Do you hold ongoing auditions to keep seeing what's out there?
Yes.
Yes.
We audition every show. We usually will start off, we did start off with a season audition first, and then we realized there's so many opportunities down here, and different commitments come up and whatnot. So now we decided to keep it fresh, we'll do it one show at a time. And because there are other theaters popping up and other opportunities, and it's really about what you need for that show.
How do you advertise your auditions?
Oh God, Facebook is big.
Facebook, well,
On the website, but
On the
linked
website,
by Facebook.
Theater League.
Theater League.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're with them. We get a big response from that. But I mean, I have to say, social media is.
we have to do a whole show on social
Yeah,
media.
really
And we
should.
will.
Yeah,
And we
absolutely
definitely
should.
will.
Social media.
So, gentlemen, let's talk about the process. You pick a show, you announce your season, you cast that show, rehearsal starts. How does it work?
Well, we start. Do we say? We start with music rehearsals, which typically are at our house.
I love it. See, that's great.
We'll
yeah.
make sure that there's nobody grossly allergic to cats, or we'll have to make alternate arrangements, and then we have music rehearsals there. For a while now, we've had our dance rehearsals where we need the space at
Muse. Yeah, we've done it at Muse.
Muse.
Uh-huh.
At a dance studio and in the ballroom of a
retirement
community, who we trade tickets to the show with.
Oh,
That's great.
I
Creative.
love it.
And-
See,
Barter.
this is how you guys save money. This is
Yeah.
how
Yes.
you make
Wonderful.
it work.
Yeah.
Good
And you have to be
thinking.
really creative with that.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And that goes hand in hand with the lessons that you learn. When you go, you're like, all right, well, we'll just go to this rehearsal space. We'll rent
We'll
that.
do it
we'll
$100
this.
an hour?
You
That
start
sounds
writing
great.
those checks. You start writing those checks, and you realize, there's got to be
Yeah.
a barn somewhere where we can set up for free, or we can say, hey, do the people who live at this community want to come to the show, and we'll trade you tickets. And then they can offer that to their residents, and then it becomes a win-win. And then
they talk.
They start talking, and
go.
it's just that
There
whole
you go.
snowball.
So not
thing.
only are you saving yourself money in the pre-production stage and the rehearsal stage of the process, but also you're doing free marketing, just by word of mouth.
Email blasting too.
There you go.
Email is huge.
No, that's great.
And how much rehearsal do you get? Again, watching you on Facebook, it's hard to tell whether
That's
you're doing
good
the
knowing
standard 2.5 weeks or whether you're doing 4 weeks.
Here's what it really
or are you
is.
working only at night because people have day jobs,
Yes.
et cetera, et cetera?
See, whereas it takes us about 3 weeks, but I think where the real difference is that I don't think anyone knows that we don't do 10 out of 12s.
Okay.
We-
You should explain what
Okay, so a
those
10
are
out
to
of a
people.
12 is where you can have a 10-hour rehearsal in a 12-hour period, and those are usually your tech rehearsals.
Right.
And whereas some of the bigger companies that have more of the funding and their own theater, because you can rehearse there, you can rehearse 8 hours a day or 6 hours a day. We only rehearse 4 hours a night, about 5 nights a week for 3 weeks, and we get 2 techs, and they're only 4 hours long.
Wow.
Yikes.
And that's where I think the real magic is, that nobody really gets to see behind that, of everybody really pulling together and not having, 20 hours of text. We don't have any previews. So, I mean, when we're putting in front of press and everything, it's usually the first time we've done it.
Wow.
It's what the audience, the average audience, the theater audience understands everything you just said.
Yes.
But the average audience doesn't appreciate what you go through.
It's wild.
But
Well,
that
it's,
means
it's,
go
it's an
into tech
enormous amount
prepared.
of work that you guys do in
Yes.
an incredibly short period of time.
Yeah.
Enormous.
That's really impressive. That's incredibly impressive.
And I like that word impressive, because that's what I think your shows have been so far. Again, I mentioned Sideshow because it was so impressive. It
was.
And that's your style.
I have to tell you, I am a huge fan of both our guests. They are amazing artists. They produce amazing work. Slow Burn Theater Company. They produce wonderful work, and you really need to go out and see their work. There's great theater all over South Florida, and you need to go and see that as well. To see it or to find out about it, all you have to do is go to floridatheateronstage.com and then just go and buy a ticket and enjoy yourself. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of this really informative, fun half hour. We look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks.